Well, my editing skills are crap, but can the same thing be said about Odd Thomas? Stick around and find out. I don't know what I was going for there. Some kind of a weird 50s Twilight Zone something. I don't know. Okay, hey, my name is Peter Franson from Christian Geek Central and Spirit Blade Productions, here with an uncut review of Odd Thomas. Now, this is a movie that I did not see in theaters. I don't know if it was even released in theaters. I checked it out at the local Redbox. But in this story, Odd Thomas, and that is his actual given name, first name Odd, last name Thomas, lives in a small town. He's a short order cook, and he has these kind of clairvoyant abilities, and he can kind of see dead people. He just kind of has like this ability to see and sense what's going on in the supernatural realm, and so that leads him to be kind of a person that the chief of police calls upon to get information on crimes and murders and stuff like that. Because he's seen this pattern that this weird Odd Thomas guy is always right. And so this relationship is already established as we begin the movie, and some creepy happenings are happening. And Odd is, it's weird to say that's his first name. He is getting the sense that something is going to go down in this town that's more horrific and terrible and large-scale evil than anything that this town has seen before. And so, of course, he needs to be the man to stop it. Meanwhile, he is trying to manage life with this girl named Stormy, who he's known since they were very young together, and he is just convinced that they are destined to be together, and you believe that that's the case, with kind of his clairvoyant abilities, and he had this. I guess they went to like one of those animatronic fortune teller things when they were at a carnival when they were kids. They got a little card came out that says you are destined to be together forever. So that's kind of like a recurring kind of a reference that they make throughout the movie, to establish these guys as kind of like this enduring, lasting, forever kind of romance, and so he's kind of managing his relationship with her throughout all this stuff. It's the movie is what I would describe as, I guess, a supernatural mystery slash comedy, suspense type thing. I don't know. It feels very much like the TV show Supernatural to me, but with a lot more comedy involved. And in more ways than one, it feels like Supernatural because it looks like a TV show. And that's not a compliment, but neither is it like a big knock on the movie. If you're okay with watching kind of a lower budget, kind of direct to video looking type experience, then this one might be for you. I mean, I thought it was okay. Let's talk about the actors a little bit. Anton Yelchin, he was Chekhov in the new Star Trek movies. He's this very kind of quirky kind of actor, and you would think that he would be a great casting choice for this kind of character. And Odd as a character is written in a way and reacted to in a way by the other characters to suggest that he's this very strange, awkward type character. And you think Anton Yelchin, well, he's going to be perfect for that. But I don't think he really went weird and quirky enough to really justify how people were treating him and reacting to him. And even some of his own character performance choices, I think could have gone further in that direction, and he just didn't tap into his own quirkiness like we've seen him do in other roles, the way that I think he could have to really be more effective in this. Willem Dafoe is in this. He plays the chief of police, and I don't know, he's it's a strange choice for chief of police. He's kind of like a familiar face, and I guess he's got that going for him, but I don't know that he was particularly the best choice in the world for this. Anyway, the visual effects, let's talk about that a little bit. Like I said, very TV, but I want to say that this looks like, as far as the visual effects and just the way it's shot, it's like a heavily produced pilot for a TV series, like a really well-produced pilot for a TV series. And so, like I said, the visuals, that's not necessarily a knock against the visuals. And they do some cool things in terms of action, slow-mo, CGI. They got these supernatural creatures called Bodaks that are constantly crawling all over people, and they're completely unaware of their presence, that look cool, but definitely CGI, So, but if you're okay with that, and, you're okay with kind of like that's kind of modern B style movie, not B in the sense of it being cheesy and like just terrible, but just B in the sense that it's just doesn't have a high budget, and it's kind of made a bit on the cheap or on a lower scale. Then if you're open to those kinds of experiences, then I think you might enjoy this movie. There are some interesting things that you could. Well, let me talk about, I guess, the drama. The other thing that I think makes it comparable to Supernatural is the tone of the movie. There's lots of wisecracking and joking, and I don't feel like any of the characters are really behaving in the way that real people would when faced with the circumstances that these characters are faced with. Life and death, crazy supernatural stuff that would just be terrifying and could drive people insane because it would cause them to question all kinds of things that they take for granted in their day-to-day lives, you know? And they're just not reacting to those things in a psychologically realistic way. In that way, this feels like a WB type TV show. Most people in this movie are very pretty, with the exception of Willem Dafoe. You know, he's got that kind of strange, rugged kind of look to him. And I guess Anton Yelchin is not quite like the typical WB kind of leading man. But, you know, most everybody's young and kind of model looking and, you know, a little bit too beautiful. And the relationships are kind of surfacey. I would have liked to see in the story them justify this deep, legendary romance that they seem to be trying to set up between Odd and Stormy, but they really didn't. I think give that relationship the attention that it really needed to take it, you know, to really present it as like this romance of the ages, you know, and destined to be together forever, you know. Also, I felt like the suspense parts of the movie weren't really suspenseful. There were some jump scares, so if you're up for some jump scares, you'll get some of those. But atmospherically, in terms of the creepiness of walking down a darkened hallway and suddenly things get cold, so they put a blue filter on, you know. But other than that, there's not really a lot done visually to really enhance the creepiness of some of those quote-unquote creepy supernatural scenes and suspenseful moments, you know. But I mean, if you're just in the mood for a horror genre setting, but you don't necessarily need to be scared, then I think you'll enjoy this. I think that's what Supernatural, the TV show, is for me in my experience. It's like, okay, I want to scratch that supernatural horror type itch, but I don't really feel the need to be on the edge of my seat. I just kind of want the trappings. I want vampires and monsters and ghosts and stuff like that, but I don't really need to be scared. I just kind of like those things. Then, you know, that's kind of what this movie, I think, is going to be for a lot of people. Not scary, but it's just kind of in that setting a bit. There's lots of interesting things to well, before I go on to the relevance stuff, one thing I'll say, you know, this was a very kind of like, you know, movie. If I didn't plan to review it, I probably wouldn't have finished it. If it were like on TV or something like that, I would have given it, you know, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and, you know, then said, you know, I want to play Dragon Age instead. But since I was reviewing this, I did finish it. Ordinarily, it's not the type of movie that I would finish. I was going to give it a 7.0 out of 10 in quality, which just kind of says, yeah, it's average. It's, you know, whatever. But the ending, they made an interesting choice that made things not wrapped up and not all tidy at the end, and I appreciated them making that choice. And I guess it gave a little bit more weight to the rest of the experience retroactively for me, and so that for me bumps it up to a 7.5 in quality. Now let's talk about relevance a little bit. As is the case in lots of supernatural themed movies, there's a decent number of things to kind of think about or talk about of spiritual or moral relevance if you're in the mood for that. I don't think this movie really like shoves it in your face or really makes it like a central theme of what they're talking about and exploring, and, you know, but I mean, if you're interested in those kinds of things and you're looking for those kinds of things, I think like I did, you'll see these themes and ideas pop up all over the place. One that's like right in the dialogue in this one scene, Stormy asks Odd at one point, you know, so do I have free will, or am I in God's hands, or is it both, you know? And he kind of dodges the question, and, you know, I make some kind of joke or something like that, you know, but that is kind of one of these classic questions. And speaking of God, Odd does acknowledge in his voiceover, because it's almost like a first person, you know, voiceover, almost like that noirish kind of detective voiceover, except with lots of wisecracking. It's a bit of a first-person story in that regard. But in his kind of voiceover near the beginning, he says, I believe in a life after this one, or a life after death. I believe in a higher power. And he doesn't get any more clear and, you know, committed to any ideas of the afterlife or a higher power than that. But he does, you know, say that he affirms the existence of those things. And there's certainly some trappings of Christianity present in this movie. Dean Koontz was the guy who wrote, if not the screenplay, at least the book, I believe, that this is based on. It's probably a book series, and that's what it feels like. When the movie's done, you feel like this is a setup for a series, you know. Anyway, so there's some God talk here and there, very briefly. Um, let's see. There's talk of the afterlife, but it's interesting because Odd will say to somebody, a spirit that's died that he's kind of talking to, he'll say, you're ready to move on. You're going to go someplace that's wonderful and stuff like that. Well, it's interesting that he would make such clear statements about where people are headed in the afterlife when he really doesn't have anything concrete that he is affirming about the afterlife. He said there is an afterlife. He doesn't say there's a heaven, there's a hell, and it just kind of reminds me of how we are very selective. I think in popular American culture, we're very selective about what we affirm about the afterlife. We believe that there's an afterlife, but we're kind of hazy on the details and stuff. But yet, we're pretty quick to say when someone has died that they're in a better place or that they're looking down on us from above, And I feel like it would be a good idea for us to dispense with a lot of that kind of vague, like warm fuzzy type language, and just try to stick with what's the truth. Looks like I'm gonna have to do some editing after all. Okay, you go downstairs, and then I will help you start a video in about 5 more minutes. Okay?
Okay, but could you please put on another video?
I will in about 5 minutes, but I'm making a video of my own right now.
Okay.
So if you want me to put on a video for you, you got to go downstairs right now, and then I'll be down there in 5 minutes to put a video on for you.
Okay, but why are you on a video?
I'll tell you in 5 minutes.
Okay, but what's this?
That's my microphone. Okay, you gotta go.
Okay.
I'll see you in 5 minutes. Bye. Welcome to my world. Okay, what was my whole train of thought there? Holly, do you remember what I was saying? Oh, crap. She doesn't remember. Oh, yeah. Just this idea of I think we'd be wise to just dispense with kind of like the fluffy comfort language, and comfort each other with truth. And if we don't have truth to comfort each other with, then that's a reason to pursue truth, to seek truth about what is the real nature of the life after this one. Do we have good reasons to believe that there is something good potentially after this life, rather than just kind of spouting things off that sound nice, but we really don't have a strong basis for? Let's see what else. Oh yeah, this is another thing. There's this concept in this movie about like letting spirits go, letting people go. That how spirits are somehow kept around as we mourn for them or something, or as they are kind of like, or if they're haunted themselves by something, by how they died. They don't like how they died, so they stick around and stuff like that. And all that kind of stuff that comes out of the popular realm of like. Mediums and stuff. Like I remember like there was Crossing Over with John Edward on the Sci-Fi Channel a long time ago, and the way he would describe the afterlife just made me think, wow, there is in this whole way of viewing the afterlife, there is a ton of uncertainty. There's like, because you'll hear about like people that are free to still be jerks and to like be angry about the way they died or angry about something in life, and so they'll take it out on other people, they'll take it out on other spirits, so it would appear that even in the afterlife there's no justice, that there's kind of like this mixing around of like evil with the innocent, and them hurting each other, and it's basically just life continuing like this but on a different dimensional plane or something like that. And that's not a source of hope. I don't see how that could be a source of hope for anybody. And I also think it's interesting that we have to let spirits go. So you're telling me under this view that if I die and someone really, really misses me, that I might be trapped here on Earth until they're ready to let me go? I mean, that's it's all these kinds of like this kind of somewhat ultimately meaningless language. It's kind of like this comfort language that we use that for some reason we adopt into how we actually literally think of the life after this one. It reminds me of the expression, they're always alive if we remember them in our heart. So they'll always live on in your memory. They'll always live on in your heart. Well, what do you mean? So when I die, the only way I'm going to survive is existing in somebody's memory? Well, what happens when they forget me? Do I cease to exist? Or I only exist if I'm in their heart? Well, am I in their heart or their heart? Am I split up into all these different pieces? And So I mean, there's all this kind of comfort language that we kind of use, and that this movie, I think, draws from a little bit in the way it portrays the afterlife and the way it portrays spirits after death. That when you stop and think about it and really analyze, this whole worldview that's based on comfort language, it really falls apart and becomes undesirable very quick when you consider the ramifications of it. But anyway, like I said, you really kind of have to dig for that stuff. I do think there's opportunity when you watch a movie like this to start a conversation like that, or at least to process some of those thoughts yourself if you're in the mood for that. But the movie itself, I don't think really is going for trying to stimulate conversation about that kind of stuff. So anyway, final score on this one, I give it a 7.5 out of 10 in quality, and in relevance, I'll give it a 7.0 out of 10. If you want to know what those scores mean, and where is this thing? Okay, I forgot to show you. That's what Anton Yelchin looks like. Go to ChristianGeekCentral.com and you'll find out more about the review system and stuff like that. And I hope you'll stick around and join us there on the forums at ChristianGeekCentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. Okay, I don't think I'm going to edit after all. I think I'm just going to keep that in there. Okay, because I don't have time. It's Christmas season. It's way too busy for editing.